Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to be sharing with you how I made this on the bust dress with a rose on the bust. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. Let's dive right into today's video. So first, here is my pattern and I've used it to cut this out. So for the lining of the front, I made use of the same fabric I used for the front. So for the cup part, I went ahead to add half-inch round the cup. For the upper part of this, I added half-inch all the way around on top. By the side I didn't add, and I added at the lower part, and I went ahead to cut this on fold. So this is what I have at this point, and I cut this same piece for the cup part, and I'm going to be ironing a gum stay on the lining part of the dress at the cup. And for the main piece, I'm just going to go ahead to place, and I'll trace out a wording for it. But just to make sure that this cup has a little curve, I'm going to go ahead to divide the wording I have for the cup. So I'll just go ahead and iron this for the lining piece of this dress. So after I'm done ironing, this is what I have for the front piece. So for this part, you notice I ironed a wording on it, and I went ahead to cut out my wording to give it a curve, just to make sure that the cup has a curve at the center that is not so flat. So now I'll just go ahead to pin my cup all the way around. While pinning your cup, if you notice that the space you have is a bit small on the body, go ahead and notch the body of the corset, then attach your cup. So after now, I'll just go ahead and stitch it up with half-inch and repeat the same process at the other side. So yeah, I'm done stitching. This is what I have for both the front and the back. So now I made a little strap for the sleeve. So you have to go ahead to measure from your bust to the back to know what is okay for you. For me, I used 16, but I'm still going to reduce it to about 13.5 inches. So I'm going to notch the cup part so that I can place this on it. So I'll just go ahead and place pin, and I will be repeating this same process at the other side. So I'll go ahead and take the lining part, and I'll go ahead to pin it down. After pinning it, I'll just go ahead and I will stitch with half-inch all the way around. After pinning it round, I'll just go ahead and turn it to the right side. So after that, this is what I have after turning it to the right side. And for the lower part, I went ahead to place my pattern, cut it out. So I folded the lower part. I did not turn it with a lining. So this is a Duchess fabric, so you can sew it without a lining also. So I'm going to notch the middle of the skirt and the middle of my dress also, and I will sew. So if you notice on the skirt part, I have more allowance because I actually added the same allowance at the upper part, but I didn't turn it up. So later I will just go ahead and trace out the excess I have at the waistline of this pattern. So after I'm done pinning this, I'll just go ahead to stitch it up with half-inch. So I traced it out, that is the excess I have. So when you're cutting this, please don't go ahead to remove too much from your hip point. So this is what I have for the front, and we'll be moving over to the back pattern. So for the back pattern, I went ahead already to turn it out because of time. So I added half-inch at the side, at the upper part and at the zipper side. So I turned it up with that half-inch. And also remember to iron your soft stay or your STA to your fabric. So for the back also, I went ahead to cut it out and I folded the lower part. So now I'll be joining this with 1/2 inch, and I'll repeat this at the other side of the dress. So after I was done joining, this is what I have, and I went ahead to also fold the lower part to give it a clean base at that point. So, and I sewed about 1 inch after my zipper allowance. So now I'm going to be adding zip to the rest of my dress. So after I was done, I placed the front on the back pattern, and I'll just go ahead to pin it, and we'll stitch up this dress or shape the dress. To shape my dress, I'm going to place my tape, mark my under bust first, which is 12 inches, mark my bust point, which is 9 inches, mark my under bust, which is 17 inches, and then measure about 7 inches to my hip line. So if you're a much taller person, you'll be using 8 inches. So now I'll just go ahead and insert my bust circumference at the bust part of my pattern. So my bust is 33, and I divided what I had there into 2. So after that, I went ahead to mark my under bust measurement also at that point that I marked for my under bust. After inserting my under bust, I'm going to go ahead to mark my waist circumference. So my waist is the same thing with my under bust, which is 28 inches divided by 4. I have 14. So when I measured down there, I had like 17 inches. So 17 minus that 14 inches, I had 3 inches left, and I shared 1.5 inches on both sides. So at the lower part of my pattern, I went ahead to mark my hip measurement. What I have there is 24 inches. So my hip is 40 divided by 2. I have 20. So 24 minus 20, I have 4 inches left. So I shared 2 inches on both sides, measured about 1.5 at the lower part, and I connected it. So at the other side also, I'll go ahead to repeat the same process I took for this side. So after I was done marking it, at the hip point, I went in a bit by 1/2 inch. This is just to make sure that my hip, I don't have a pointy edge at that part. So after I was done sewing, this is what I have. Now we'll move over to the rose part of this dress. And please don't forget to tack the spaghetti strap of your dress at the back. So to make the little rose or ruffle, you can decide to cut this as a flounce, but I don't have enough material. This is just the doll face that I had at home, so I used it for the bust area, and this is what was remaining. So now I cut this as a straight fabric. You can also cut it like a flounce, just like I said. So I went ahead to fold it up. So now I'll start sewing a rose round it. So I'm using a hand stitch, that's needle and thread. You can also do this with a sewing machine, but it is easier for a beginner to actually stitch it with your needle and thread. So while you're stitching this, make sure that the tacking that you're doing on it does not come to the wrong side of the fabric. Like, stitch it in between the right side of the fabric and the wrong side of the fabric at the lining part of the bust. So I'm going to carefully do this and take it round my pattern. So the rose we actually have on the thumbnail is a bit bigger, but because I just have little fabric, so I'm just going to make do with what I have.
She got my back, I'm happy that say everything I do is for my woman. Anything I thought when you talk, I go do. Me, I know they see another girl for my visuals. Loving you, now in my ritual. She got my back, I'm happy that say everything I do is for my woman. Anything I thought when you talk, I go do. Me, I know they see another girl for my visuals. Loving you, now in my ritual.
So after we are done stitching up, this is what I have, and I went ahead to also repeat this at the other side of the dress. So if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. See you in our next video. Thanks.